Hi, I'm Danielle, and I'm doing an interview of my cousin Karen Bigelow. She's my example of a rebellious woman.
Oh, geez. Thank
Okay.
you for that.
So, first question, tell me about your childhood and family background.
Okay. I was the youngest of five, and there was 6 years difference between me and the next child. My dad worked most of the time, two jobs, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom and wife. She tended to the house, and the dad and my dad and I. We were middle class. We were conservative, but my parents had an alcohol problem. So my childhood, I was alone a lot and took care of them. It was not always pleasant or like a childlike youth. I don't think I found really my childlikeness till I hit about 30. So,
What career paths have you chosen in your life?
um, well, I basically started my first really, I want to say full time job 3 days after I graduated high school. I graduated on, I think it was Thursday night, and I went to work on Monday morning for the federal government in a clerical position. I was there for 27 years and retired early because the facility closed. I moved out quickly. They were really good to me. And I became a second level manager and stayed in management most of my career. It was a good, solid place to work. You could depend on it. The other employees became my family almost. So after I retired, a few years later, I became a private school principal. And I did that for 14 years. That was not a plan of mine. I did not want another career. Basically, I was good to work at Burger King and made sure that they made the best burgers because that's where I like to go, or work in a puppy shop, and that was my whole career goal at that time. But there was other plans for me. Um, because I was the kid that liked recess. I never liked the academic part. I always found ways to shortcut it and just do what I minimally had to do. So being a principal was like, are you kidding me? But that's what I did, and I really enjoyed working with the kids, even some of the trouble kids, to see maybe changes or how you can go about helping them or their parents, help them with life and their choices. Maybe you can just kind of plant a seed for their future and just to let them know that somebody really cared about them. And so I enjoyed it.
Did you find it hard being a woman and a Christian as a Christian principal?
No, because that's pretty much what you find
Yeah.
in more women than men. It kind of goes with that role model of a woman to be a teacher,
Nurturing.
and that type of thing. So,
Mm.
no, it wasn't hard. So everybody always shakes when they say the principal, and nobody wants to go. It was always kind of funny because if parents had to meet with me, they were all nervous, sweaty hands and everything because they were going to the principal's office, and it brought back memories, I guess, for them. So, yeah.
Can you describe any challenges you faced working within a male dominated career in the late 70s and 80s? I know some stories, but.
Yeah, Danielle did give me the questions earlier today, and so when I went through them, I went, "Oh my gosh!" And it's like, yeah, well, when I really thought about it and kind of dug into it, it opened up a lot of things that kind of made me angry, even now. So, yeah, there was a lot of things that happened. I think with women during that time, because I think women were just trying to move ahead and become more equal, and men were not happy with that. I started working with the federal government in 1973, and then you were automatically placed in a clerical position. That's where you started. At the bottom, you started typing, you served the boss coffee, and you cleaned his desk every time he left it. So, yeah, there was some pretty um, interesting times. I had one boss that I reflected on. He was very much a chauvinist. And he would come by my desk and he would slam his coffee cup on my desk. And then he'd just walk by. He wouldn't say anything. He'd just slam that coffee cup down. And that meant I was to jump to and go make his coffee. Well, see, his coffee wasn't just go pour it out of a pot. It was instant coffee. And you were only to take, there was a certain spoon you were to use. And then you were only to put the tip of the spoon full of coffee in his cup of hot water. And it had to be made exactly that way. And then you went and put it on his desk, and then he miraculously reappeared and drank his coffee. So that was kind of what you had to do. Well, one day he walked by and he slammed that cup of coffee down on my desk. And he just glared at me and he kept on walking. And I don't know why that day, but I just kind of had enough of it. So I took my little self over to the coffee and I put 3 heaping spoonfuls of coffee in there into his hot water, and I just stirred that up. And I went and put it on his desk. And it was kind of amazing. He never said anything about it. He just, he didn't ask me for a cup of coffee for about a week. And I figured, yeah, he's probably still drinking that one, or he's diluted it a lot, whatever. But then when he did ask me the next time, he came up and he said, Karen, do you think it might be possible sometime I could get a cup of coffee? And he just held his cup, and I said, oh, sure, that would be fine. And so he lightly put down his cup and he kind of walked away. And it was like, just a little respect and kindness would have gone a long ways, not so demanding. And that was just my task in life. So I thought of that. The other thing I thought of was when he interviewed me for the job, he was older, and I was probably in my latter 20s at that time. And he goes, well, I just have one question for you. He goes, my other secretaries, I like to look down their blouses, and they were okay with that. He goes, if I did that with you, would you be okay with that? And I told him, geez, yeah, I'd be fine with that because I always wear turtlenecks. And he just looked at me and he never said anything. And he never attempted to, of course, didn't always wear turtlenecks, but I thought, heck no, dude, we're not doing this, But he never attempted to look down anything I had. But he did have one thing that he did do. If you were standing up, he would come right up to you and he would start talking to you. And then he would take a step closer to you. And then I would take a step back. And then he would take another step close to you. And you kept backing up because he kept getting closer to you. And it was very intimidating. And I didn't like what he was doing. And so it had gone on for a little while. And so I just decided that I was going to change it up. And so the next time he did that, I took a step towards him. And he backed up. And then we kind of stopped. And so then he tried his normal thing, he started taking a step towards me. And so then I took a step towards him. Well, the gap really narrowed. We were almost nose to nose at one point. And I just kind of looked at him like, what are you going to do now? There's no place to go. And he quit doing that too.
Wow.
But yeah, it was kind of just like, I don't know, it was like this battle of who was the strongest, and who was in control. And I did my job. That's what I was there for. But being treated like that, I wasn't okay with it. And so I think that was probably one of the worst situations. He'd ask me, he'd go in after lunch and lay down on his couch, and he goes, "Hey, would you wake me up?" And it's like, I don't want to wake you up, And it's like, what do I do? Go in, throw something at you? Because I ain't getting that close to you. But it was just kind of those things that of the expectation of what you're supposed to do. So
Yeah, it's not like a normal employee. It's like I would never ask my employees to do that, or
yeah. And so anyway, I moved on up then, got a promotion and went into management. And I was in an area where it was like aircraft mechanics, a lot of repair. And so it was predominantly done by men. And so it was a very male dominated environment. Even though I was a supervisor, I was still treated like I was a clerk. And so I was asked to get coffee, and they pretty much treated me like I couldn't do much more than that. And I don't know, I've always been kind of an introvert, and always kind of quiet and kind of shy. But when things like that start to happen to me, I don't know, I step forward. I don't really step back. And so I guess you would say I was a little strong-willed.
Rebellious.
And I felt I could do about anything that anybody else could do. If you just showed me, I probably could figure it out, and I probably could do it. So don't treat me like that. So I stood my ground. I walked past cat calls, the yells, the looks, the passes, and the put downs. I had one gentleman, I was single, he was married, and he said, I want to take you out on a date. And I go, yeah, but you're married. And he goes, yeah, but he goes, if you just give me your phone number, I'll call you. And I go, okay, that'd be a good idea. And then we can set it up. So at that time, they had a number and an organization. And so I gave him the phone number, and it was to the organization. It was called Dial a Prayer. And so the next day he came back, and he didn't talk to me for quite some period of time. But it was like, just, I just mess with it. At one point, being in second level management, with the big boys, as my co-workers and my equals, we were considered at the same kind of authority level, responsibility level. They were paid like 5 times higher than I ever was, had the bigger offices and that type of thing. But at that point, I really made kind of a gutsy big stand. I thought, one of my co-workers, another manager, he decided that he was going to poach one of my female employees, and with a little something probably on the side going on. And I remember that day, he had a really big office, and I was still fairly new in my job, and I went to his office and had a door on his office, and I turned around and I closed it, and I said, I need to talk to you for a moment. And I didn't wait for an answer from him if it was okay or not. And I went over to his desk, and I put my palms on his desk, and I got in his face, and I said, no, listen, dude, you stay out of my organization and you leave my employees alone. If you want something from one of my employees, you come to me first. You don't go to them. You want somebody to work for you, you come to me and you ask me about it. But you stay away from my employees. You stay away from my female employees, and I don't know what you do on your own time, but whatever you do with the employee on my time is my business, and it ain't gonna happen as long as I'm captain here. And I go, so I'm going to tell you, stay out of my business. If you don't like what I'm saying, if you don't agree with what I'm saying, then take it to our boss, which at that time was pretty high level. But anyway, I had actually 2 of those. But I go, take it to them if you don't like it. But I'm telling you, stay out of my organization, stay away from my employees, And if you want to handle it the right way, then you come to me. Otherwise, you stay out. And I go, do you understand me? And I got a little closer in his face, and he goes, uh-huh. And so I turned around and walked out and slammed the door behind me. And it was kind of funny because about 12 years later, one day he walked in, and where I was working, it was a different place. He goes, well, hi, Karen. I go, hi. And that was kind of neat. Kind of like, oh, geez, if I could just be a turtle right now and pull my head into my whatever. And he goes, guess what? And I go, what? He goes, I'm going to be your boss. And I go, yeah, I know. And he goes, yeah. He goes, it's payback as hell, isn't it? And I go, well, we're going to find out, aren't we? And so I just kind of laughed, and he was okay with it. But I thought, I think people respect you more if you do stand up for what's right, and you do speak up, and you don't let them run over you. But so that was one of my interesting time. I kind of wrote some of this down because I knew I wouldn't remember some of the stuff that I really wanted. I used to call my coworkers sharks at that place because they would eat you just as well as look at you, and pretty much all of them tried. You always had to be on your toes and ready for anything. You don't dress too cute. You don't look too cute or feminine, because that only weakened you. Professional. You always had to be professional. I actually, at that time, it was a little in style, but I wouldn't wear it now, but you wore like a simulated men's tie. And I wore a man's tie some days.
Really?
And you wore red because that was power, you know? And I always wore a suit, but yeah, I wore that because that's who I was going up against. It wasn't so much my employees, but it was my coworker sharks. Professional, over the top on what you do. You always have to do it and do it well, just to hold your ground. I had male and female employees that worked for me, and they would always challenge me. I remember when I first came in, one looked at me and goes, "You're gonna be my boss?" I go, "Yep, that's right. Hello." It didn't matter so much the gender. You were just challenged. I was young, and I was moving up really fast. So.
And this was with McClellan Air Force Base, right?
Federal. Yeah,
federal. In your role, did you find other women helpful in combating the stereotypes, and how did you navigate that?
When I read that question, I really snickered because, and I wrote with an exclamation mark, absolutely not. Women were not your friends.
Really?
Not at all. I don't know. I always have this concept with women kind of in the workplace that men are taught to be on teams and work together, to accomplish an end goal. Women are taught that if there's another woman in the area, she's your competition, and you just need to kill her and be done with it. And that was kind of what I found. They would be the first to put you down, not ever really support you. They'd actually work against you and talk behind your back. At that time, I had kind of medium length hair, and I had one female coworker manager told me that I needed to cut my hair short because otherwise no one would ever take me seriously. And that was like,
another woman.
Yeah, it's like, no, that's who I am. It's not that my hair makes me anything different.
No,
you should value me. Yeah. No one was your friend. They were always your coworkers, and you always needed to keep that in mind. If I received a promotion, it was because most likely you slept your way there. And that was the grapevine news, basically. And it was very cutthroat. At first, I would go home and I'd cry every night. But soon I toughened up and I stopped crying and just got on with it.
Wow. That's crazy. It shouldn't be like that at all. Um, how did you overcome male chauvinism in your career? Some of it you just said.
Yeah, I think you stand your ground. You let them know that you are not going to be run over. And if you are, you're going to scream really loud and it's going to be ugly when they do it.
Yeah.
Don't give an inch. You do, then you lose a mile because they'll take it even further after that. Be kind, but be firm. Don't. I remember my predecessor. I worked for her, and I was promoted into her job when she retired. And she'd always cry, and she'd cry at work, and the men would see her cry. And I was like, "Oh, don't do that." So don't cry and don't act childish in front of them because they consider that weakness, and you're easier prey that way. And so you take it somewhere else, but you don't do it there. Be that professional. Show them you know what you're doing, and you have the confidence to do it.
It's like you can't really show any type of emotion or any type of. It's like you're just straight face.
Well,
kind of
yeah, you can smile and you can be pleasant and stuff, but if you giggle too much, then that makes you even more feminine, a little bit weaker. If you cry, if you tear up, you know,
Yeah.
like, aw, and it's like, aw,
It's
get
a
her.
girl.
Get her.
Get her. What were the biggest lessons learned in your 20s, 30s, and 40s?
I'm like, whoa, okay, that was kind of a hard one. In my 20s, I learned I'm on my own. I think I kind of always kind of knew that even as a child, but it was definitely you're on your own. 30s, I learned you can do it. That was my high point in my career. And I was like, look at you go. Wow, look at this. Well, this is kind of cool. I don't know who's doing this, but look at me go. And then in the 40s, it was more like you've done it. Now use your knowledge and keep moving. But it's like you don't have to prove as much because you've already gained a lot of knowledge. You already kind of know who you are. You're usually at a level higher in your company. And so it's like, just keep moving it forward. Just keep it going. And then you also learn is don't sweat the small stuff with the people. It's just small stuff.
Yeah. What does being a woman mean to you?
Well, in a perfect world, I like being a woman. I like being feminine. I like looking pretty and dressing like a woman. I can do anything anyone else can do, maybe better, maybe not. But there's a lot of options for women, and we never have to take a back seat. And so I like being a woman, but it's really difficult when you're in a workforce because you have to kind of alter that somewhat. You have to navigate that, you know.
Yeah.
So
Can't be just you. How do you think your life would be different if you were a man?
I'd be a lot stupider.
No.
No, not necessarily. But anyway, no, when I thought about that, I thought, I think I would have been promoted to a much higher position. I think I would have been given more authority and more credibility. At one time, I was told that I could have run the base, and that I could have held a very high position. And it's like, well, if I could, why aren't I? But you just don't.
You weren't a man.
No. Who knows what I would have become? You know, I don't know. And I don't know.
Yeah. How have you struggled being a woman in ministry?
Oh, you opened up that door. Very much so. It was and is a struggle, and I was married to a senior pastor, and for 17 years, and just recently divorced, but what I found was it was great. It was an experience that I wouldn't trade, but it was really hard. You're never as qualified, you're never as knowledgeable or able to be as great or useful as a man.
Mm-hmm.
To marry my husband, I had to go before an interview with 9 men sitting at little tables, asking me questions as to why I felt like I was qualified to marry this man. And very humiliating. And I was not 20. My previous husband had passed from cancer. And so in my latter 40s, I'm sitting before people asking me why I thought I was qualified. And why did I think I was good enough, and did I think I could be a pastor's wife? And I thought, wow, okay, I didn't know that this was the king and queen of something, you know, but it was very difficult. It's very, at least where I came from, it was very male dominant. They ran it, they made the decisions. You're to be obedient, quiet, submissive. There's a certain way you're supposed to dress. You're to be dumb and settle for the spot you're given by the man. And that's to be where you're to be. And you do what they say, and you do it when they say and how they say.
But within that context, because I know you personally, how did you...
Oh, a slight rebellion.
In a good way, in a good way.
Well, that wasn't always the opinion of some people, though, because I just, I don't know, I guess if I felt like it was something I was called to do and I was supposed to do, I would do it. And it got to the point I love to do outreach to help the homeless and to help those in need. And I started a women's home, and so when I found that some of the ideas I had to help and to take mission trips with people and stuff like that, when those ideas I had, somebody else used them, which was okay. But then I was like shuffled out, and I was not a part, and I wasn't important. And so when I found that was happening and I didn't have a place, and I started doing it myself, and I started cooking soup, and I had a minivan at the time, and I would take it out with a table and the soup and lights. I had a whole shindig going on, and I would take it to where the homeless was, and I would feed them, and I would do it by myself if I had to. I started taking women down to the Tenderloin in San Francisco, and I would preach, and we would feed, and we would minister to the people down there, and I started getting very connected with some other places, and they wanted me there, and they asked me to come back, and I thought, if I'm not wanted one place, then I'm going to go to where I'm wanted, because I still felt like I was supposed to do it.
Yeah.
And even though I was being shut down and not received, so I just kept on doing what I thought.
That's a great example of trailblazing somewhere else. It's like you were held to certain standards, but you still broke the mold, and you chose what you desired and stuff like that. It's pretty cool, pretty brave.
Well, you were there, but when we wrote hearts in chalk and on sidewalks at the church and said Jesus loves you, and then I was ostracized for doing that.
Yeah.
And it's like, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Can you describe the stereotypes that have been placed on you as a pastor or upper level management on base?
well, now I'm working in ministry. Have been for about 2.5 years at another church. Given another opportunity, I was given an opportunity, a job to be in clerical. Um, Flip back to 1973, but I was thankful and I was grateful because it was like, okay, I was given another opportunity, which I didn't know if I'd ever be given that. So as a pastor, stereotypes, I think it's like, oh, she just feels more. She doesn't really have the ability or the knowledge. She just feels, you know. She doesn't really have God's ear or blessing. She's riding on her husband's coattails. Now that I'm not married to a pastor, I am now only good, like I told you, clerical and coffee again. And but I go, you know what? God knows. I know who I am, and if it's serving coffee and treats and
But meanwhile, well, that's what you got hired for. It's like within a matter of a couple months, you're an admin over the whole family ministry. You're doing baby dedications. You're helping with Project Plain Joe to rebuild like $1 million worth of the. So it's like some people have kind of held that, but I think they just won't admit how powerful you are. But they know.
As far as being management, you know, on a base, it goes back to, oh, she probably slept her way there. It's only because she's cute. And then most of them was like, okay, the resentment, the jealousy, the whatever. Oh, she's a B, you know? And it's like, yeah. You're not dearly beloved.
Well, it's funny because I've experienced a little bit even in me in management. It's like a man who is really strong, he's a good leader, but a woman, she's just the B word. It's like,
yeah.
Okay. How have you been successful in overcoming those stereotypes?
Again, don't give up. Never stop being the best you can be. Never let anybody take that from you. It's a battle, and you're going to go home and you're going to cry. And you're going to be upset, and you're probably going to be mad and come on somebody's desk, you know, with your hands and your nose. But it doesn't matter what others say. You know who you are. And you do it, and you know you can do it. And you just keep trying, and you just keep pushing forward.
Yeah, just keep going. Who has been a major feminist role model in your life?
And it's really kind of funny. It's kind of odd, but my mom. I've always said my mom has been my role model, and she was a quiet housewife when I was growing up. But before me, she worked. She dressed up. She had her job she loved. She excelled at it. She felt good about herself, and she used to tell me the stories of it. When I came, she stayed home and left herself behind. She was quiet, but she was strong. My mom endured my dad's infidelities, his drinking, his abuse, and settled. But she was always strong. She was always strong. When my dad died, after 2 years, my mom rose again as a woman, dressed up, smiling, looking pretty, and living her life. And it was, I didn't really know that part of my mom, and that was neat to see her go into that.
From a different side, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. How do you feel about the success that you have had in your life?
I feel very blessed. I've retired twice. It's never stuck. I've had 2 careers, one I didn't plan on. Have been given open doors to so many things I feel so lucky about. To have the experience. I'm okay. I'm okay with where I've been. Always. I started to say I've always been taken care of. Well, I have, by God, but I've always seen that I was taken care of too.
Mm.
But I was given the opportunities to do that.
Mm. How would you describe the challenges women face in the workforce after 50?
Now, when I travel too, all I can say is keep your hair dyed. I let mine go gray when I was about 60, and you are granny now, whether you have grandkids or not. You are treated like you have lost most of your marbles and couldn't find your way out of a paper bag. And all I say is just watch out, Buster. I'm not dead yet, but no, it changes. It changes.
How do you overcome it? Just by not giving up and just
I
proving?
I just work around those little whippersnappers. I just go faster, leave them behind, and leave them in the dust.
Go faster, speak better, all that stuff.
Watch me shine. Watch me roar.
What is your idea of what a rebellious woman would be considered in your lifetime?
Ooh, Jane Fonda came to my mind first.
Oh, she's a good one.
I loved her spirit, always. Of course, her videos, exercise days are pretty cool too. But her spirit. Then I thought of Goldie Hawn.
Oh, yeah.
I love her joy. Just her joy. And then I thought of Haley Mills. Pollyanna. I loved her spunk, that nothing got her down, and she always tried. Then I thought of Sally Fields.
Ooh.
Sally Fields could be like the flying nun to, I don't know, just to the sweet little innocent American girl, to the mom, to the tragedy, to the drama. She was everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought of Marlo Thomas. She just enjoyed life. She just enjoyed life. She had the flip. And she just enjoyed life.
But all of those women you're mentioning are very powerful, and like they stood their ground. You knew they were there.
Yeah.
It's like they didn't take no for an answer, and they kept going, especially Goldie Hawn.
The one I forgot was Doris Day.
Oh, yeah.
And she was way before any of these. But, I mean, she was right out there. Spunky little thing. She'd do anything. She didn't care if she wanted people to laugh and to have fun, even if it was on her nickel, But, yeah, she was like this gutsy lady.
Those are good ones. What were your parents' view on working outside of the home?
Yeah, well, at 14, they had me volunteering at the YMCA, clerical. 15, the hospital as an aquament, emptying bedpans.
Aquament?
Yes, I was an aquament. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. At 16, I was driving and had my first job. It's just what you did. You made your own way.
Yeah.
There was no college conversations. You just got a job and you knew that's what you were supposed to do. 16, you should have your job and be doing it.
Go to work, start making stuff.
Yeah.
How far would you say women have come both personally and professionally since?
I'd say, oh man, they have every door open. And I know that probably women today feel like they don't have the opportunities that they should, or that it's not easy or whatever. But I look at it and it's like, wow, you can be a brain surgeon, you can be an astronaut, you can do whatever. I always thought I wanted to be either astrologer or oceanographer. And it's like, oh, but that was unrealistic. My career choices in high school, there was 3. All the girls knew it. You either was a secretary, a nurse, or a mom.
Wow.
I didn't like blood, and I wasn't ready for kids, so I chose secretary.
Wow.
And that's what you studied for. Clerical.
But it's crazy you're saying that because that's a lot part of our history book. It's like a lot of women were either clerical or nurses for us.
That's your choices. Your choices that you had.
Wow. Yeah, I think we have a lot more that we can do and we don't have to battle as much, but I think it's because of women like you that over time has blazed that path for us to be able to do it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be where we are. What is one thing that you know now that you wished you knew when you were a child or a young woman?
College. Spend the time. You need that extra boost. You need that extra boost. I tried, but I was working and just not strong enough to keep it all going, and so, but yeah. There you are.
Well, she says there you are because I went back to school at the age of 40. So, how would you describe how women are treated in ministry? Kind of did that a little bit.
Yeah, that I thought in a little different twist. If there's a few more in the last 5 to 10 years that you said, see, that's become famous. You hear their names; they're out there more. But you have to do everything in a bigger way to be noticed. There was Joyce Myers.
Yeah.
And there was Joyce Myers.
Mm-hmm.
There before that, there was like Amy Semple McPherson, which not everybody knows of her. There was Corrie ten Boom that kind of through her books and that type of thing. But now it's like you can just go on for days. The different women that are coming forth, they're writing, they're publishing, they're touring, they're speaking, they're become prominent.
But one thing I noticed about that is they're touring, they're speaking, they're writing books, they're writing Bible studies, but they're not necessarily at a church preaching.
Yeah.
It's like they've paved a different way than the typical preacher.
Well, sometimes you just have to do a little different to do it, right? You have to pack your soup up in your minivan. But it's like there is a way, but you just have to get creative as to how you do it.
Making an appearance.
Yes, he's doing a stretchy right
spunk. Now. Thank you. Is there any dream that you had that you could not complete because you were a woman or deprived of the opportunity because of your sex?
I don't think so. I don't have any regrets or anything that, oh, gee, I'm going to go do this now. But see, you only know what you know.
Oh, it's true.
You only know what's available to you around you in your sphere, your world. And so, how do you know? I'm content with who I am and what I've done. I now experience, what did I write? I don't know. It's the end. Wow, that makes no sense. Maybe I did lose my marbles.
No.
Oh, what I now experience, though, is that I'm not acknowledged for my experience and my knowledge. I'm not given a chance to show what I can do. That's kind of like, well, gee, that was yesteryear. And that probably grieves me more than about anything because I feel like not just me, but there's a lot of people that as you get older have a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, and we lose it because we discount them and we put them on a shelf. And that's sad to me.
No, I would say that's pretty true. Working with seniors for me, it's like some of their stories and their history and their knowledge, it's invaluable. It's stuff that like you can't always get in a history book or you can't. And so, yeah, I can see that.
No, it's taken me from my first job, it's taken me 50 years to get here.
Yeah.
Take some time.
Yeah.
Yay.
All right. Anything else?
You know, I think you plucked it all out of me.
Rebellious woman here. Thank you.